In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the render filters. These are really cool, and basically render filters means that Photoshop is going to create something from scratch. It's not something it's necessarily going to do with the photograph, but it's going to create things that you can use in your work. If you go to the top and you go to filter and then you go to render, you will see you can render a flame, you can render a picture frame, a tree, clouds, different clouds, fibers, a lens flare, and lighting effects. So let's go ahead and start with the picture frame since it's pretty simple. We click on that and it gives us a lot of options to change out frames. And if you look at the frame here and we click on that, Photoshop has a bunch of pre-made frames that you can choose. So we can pick maybe say an art frame, and then we can give it a color that we want. Maybe we can do like a brown color and change that out, and then we can adjust things like the margin and the size and everything. But then we hit OK, and it's gonna make that frame for us. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind is whenever you are creating any of these render filters, it applies it directly to the image, so you're always going to want to create a new layer first so that you can edit these later on. So I'm gonna undo that. Let's just go ahead and create a new layer. We'll call it filters. And then we'll do that again. So go to render, picture frame, just hit OK. Now that it's on its separate layer, I have the ability to adjust this. So for instance, I could go ahead and transform this and scale it up and make it fit my image so that it looks like I actually have a frame for my picture. So we'll just select all that and clear it out. Let me deselect. We also have a flame that you can render out, which is kind of cool. You have to use a path, so we'll need something like the pen tool. And I'm just going to create a basic little path here at the bottom. And then I'm going to go to top to filter, render, flame. And now what's going to happen is it's going to create a flame based on the path that I rendered here. And this is another effect that you could probably use in some of your design work. So there you can see the actual flame path, and then you can change out how you want it to look. What kind of flame are you going with? An arcing flame? Do you want multiple flames along a path? Do you want candlelight? And so on. Then of course you can adjust the length, the width, the size, the angle. You can actually choose a custom color and change the color of the flames and the quality. So we'll hit OK, and then it'll go ahead and render that flame onto that path for us to edit and use. Okay, so there's our flame, and then of course it's on a separate layer, so we can hide, we can show it, we can even change the blending mode, so we can create like an overlay, or we can do a darken or lighten or a screen if we want to make it look like it's more blended in with that actual layer there. So just go ahead and select everything and delete that out. Okay, and we've got that deleted, so we'll deselect. You can also render out a tree, which is pretty interesting. Photoshop gives you a way to render out trees. If you're doing any architectural visualization or 3D work, you can immediately come in here and it's got all kinds of different trees that you can select and add to your scene. You can change the light direction, you can change how many leaves there are, how big it is, and so forth. Just make sure that you're creating this on a new layer so it doesn't paste it to the layer you already have, but we hit OK. And it will process a tree, and you can use that tree in your scene for whatever you would need it for. It looks like the blending mode's still set to screen, so let's change that back to normal. And then here we have our tree. So we can go ahead and move that around. Looks like I didn't clip off all the frame there. That's okay. But now we have this tree that we can put in our image and get some different looks that way also. Go ahead and delete all that out. So render is basically that. It's going to allow you to render these different things. And then we have clouds, different clouds, fibers, lens flare, and lighting effects. So if I hit clouds, it's going to just fill that layer with clouds. You have no options or selections. That's just what it does. And then you can create a lens flare effect, but let's not do this on this layer. Let's do it on the oaks layer so it affects the actual image. These last two, you will see they actually do affect the image. So the lens flare and the lighting effects, you will want to select the image for this or apply them to both layers. But if we click lens flare, here you can see a lens flare effect that we can use and change. Just looks like a little glowing orb or a lens flare from a camera. And then finally, we have lighting effects. And this is a really cool tool that you can use. You might actually find a lot of use for this in your photographs, and it allows you to just kind of fake or mimic lighting in your scene so that you can get some really cool lighting effects. And you see we have all kinds of options: point light, spotlight, infinite light. You can change the color, the hotspot, make it glossy, metallic, and so forth. So it gives you a lot of different lighting effects that you can render out inside of your scene and adjust it that way. Those you'd probably want to make a copy of your layer and edit that copy and leave your original layer intact. But those are render filters. It's just a way for you to render different things and give you more options that you can use inside of Photoshop.